So yesterday, we saw the East Coast bias rear its ugly head again, and unlike we've ever seen before, with the Yankees letter being obtained by Andy Martino of SNY. I think you can figure out what that NY stands for. Like, how does that get into the hands of Andy Martino before it gets in the hands of anybody else? And then on top of that, coupling it with the factor that Andy Martino put it in a very Yankee slant with a lot of opinion on that article as he leaked the information on what's inside the Yankee letter that has still not been unsealed.
You noticed that I reacted when you read that yesterday. Like, why does he have this when it's still supposedly sealed? How sealed was it? Did someone take, like, Steam and open up the envelope and slide out and hit a Xerox copy for somebody or electronically send a version? And I kid, but I don't, because I think that it was a preemptive strike by Rob Manfred to try and soft sell what otherwise could be what a lot of media outlets were reporting as very damaging, very hurtful to the reputation of not only the Yankees, but to baseball. You saw Jeff Passan do the same thing later on in the day, and obviously you started to realize more copies were leaking out, and that also the people that were leaking the information in the letter out were holding out certain bits of information to kind of soft sell it even more so that they could spin it as, yeah, they did this, we did that, it wasn't that bad, look the other way. And that's what's really annoying to me, because I from the get-go, I was like, I think you're all going to be very disappointed in this letter. But I also have said and been very staunch, I just want at a certain point the whole truth to come out. Instead of the Astros being the poster boys for all of this and the only team that could have done anything wrong, to basically just show what we already knew and know, and what a lot of really good baseball writers have already said, which is it's the worst kept secret in baseball. Everybody was doing it.
I totally think that this was the corruption, the collusion, the sliminess of Major League Baseball, that you had Robert Manfred leaking the info to a friendly voice and Andy Martino to soften the blow. The Yankees have spent millions of dollars to keep this letter sealed. They finally, after tons of appeals that I believe was even started by a fan, have been ruled by the courts that they need to unseal the letter. Why don't they just unseal it, be transparent, and come out with it, and let everybody just read the information for what the information says, as opposed to giving it to somebody a couple of days early? It still has been sealed. They haven't unsealed it yet, and you let Andy Martino write this puff piece about what is, he did post what the letter said, but before he posted what the letter said, he said, here's all of the things of why it was not a factor and how it's common around Major League Baseball. Were they cheating? Yes, they were cheating. Were they breaking the rules of Major League Baseball? Yes, they were breaking the rules of Major League Baseball, but you give it to Andy Martino first so he can write this soft piece and make it lighten the blow for what is your babies, right? The Yankees, the Boston Red Sox, who were actually sign stealing in 2018, post memo as well, in a year they also won the World Series.
Jeremy, here's the other thing that really irks me the most, too, is because you follow up the fluff piece, as you mentioned it, with Martino, and then Passan goes on a 9-tweet diatribe to try and let you know, because he's getting heat and getting tagged all over the place as being the coward that he's been in terms of being attacking all over on the Houston side of this and being protective of the New York and Boston side of this and even the Dodgers side of this, and then trying to keep going even further by saying, look, there are different levels to this, and if you want to be the guy that says that everybody's roped in together because they all cheated, then you go ahead, but you don't realize the levels the Astros went to as opposed to the levels that the Yankees and Red Sox did. What, technology-wise, because a garbage can is electronics? I mean, what else are you going to tell me? Because the Astros were doing it at home. On the road, they were using the bullpen phone. Yeah. They were using other things to do it home and road. The Apple Watches, was that a thing that wasn't too technologically advanced? But the Astros cheating scandal was? I mean, get over yourself, Jeff. The fact of the matter is technology was used across the board. The only out that Rob Manfred still can possibly have that he set up for himself is after the memo that I sent went out, when I really said I was going to drop the hammer, that's when the Astros continued to do it. Other than that, you got no ground to stand on. Miss me with all the technology BS, because the Astros use more technology. They used caveman antics in some regard by using a damn garbage can and a bat.
Hey guys, back to the video in just 1 minute. Before that, I want to tell you about Fitz Roofing. Fitz Roofing is dedicated to the loyal people of Houston, Texas. service. That means if you got a leaky roof or need a full roof replacement on your business or your home, and or you want to get something done around the yard or maybe something around the house, Fitz Roofing can help. All you got to do is check out all their services at fitzroofing.com, and better yet, call them 832-521-3001. They'll come to you and do a free, no obligation inspection that costs you absolutely nothing and tells you absolutely every way that they can help you fix your problems. Check them out and make sure you go to Fitz Roofing because they have the best warranties in the business, the best ratings, and the best service. They're going to take care of you every step of the way. Fitz Roofing, making a difference, one home at a time.
Yeah, that's the thing, too, is like they're arguing which one was like more egregious in terms of cheating. And like, oh, the Astros were so sophisticated that they did it unlike anybody else ever did it before. Well, not if you ask Eric Kratz, of the catcher, who said that the Rockies were using the Theragun to bang on the metal seats that they had in the
Bleacher
dugout,
seats, yep.
the metal bench that they had in their dugout to send in signs that way. So that's not more sophisticated than what has been done in Major League Baseball. Yeah, that Jeff Passan thread, I mean, triggers me. I'll be completely honest with you.
Annoyed the hell out of me.
Started off that first tweet, the first of 9 tweets. Let's start with some facts. The Yankees cheated, the Boston Red Sox cheated, the Houston Astros cheated. All of them used technology in real time to steal signs. That should have been end of thread. This was one of 9. Yep. It should have been one of 1. That should have been the very end. I quote tweeted this yesterday. I said, I guess Barry Bonds' steroid use was more effective than Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. Like, cheating is cheating, right? Like, if you cross the line, you cross the line. You break the rules, and people are like, well, manslaughter, murder. Like, you're talking manslaughter and murder when it comes to baseball and stealing signs, which has been going on since the inception of when the game started. It's still going on now. Why do you think Major League Baseball has instituted PitchCom? Because sign stealing is still going on. Sign stealing is always going to exist in baseball. But then having Passan, well, the Astros did all of this stuff. The Yankees only did this stuff. They only did it in 2015 and 16. The Astros only did it here. Well, how about the caveat, too, that Major League Baseball did a real investigation with the Houston Astros? They interviewed every single player, every member of the organization, and gave all of the players immunity. For the New York Yankees, they talked to one person who was ratting out the Red Sox, and they're like, oh, yeah, well, you're doing this too. And then they have this illusion. Well, there's a runner at second, so it's okay. Do you actually believe that?
Jeremy,
do you actually believe that just because because there was nobody on base, they weren't relaying the signs as well?
Exactly, and we only covered to the point of 16 into 17 when they admitted it, when they got the letter and they supposedly stopped that. But then they went on to go further because if you remember, the writer that came out was just blasting everybody and bringing out all of his sources.
Ryan Spader,
and then walked it back the next day. But he elaborated on with his sources the Yankees using the center field camera, using the technology to get it into the dugout, doing exactly what the Astros were doing, except for the Neanderthal garbage can banging. They were doing every bit of that the same way the Astros were doing it. And he even said the Dodgers were doing it too. So the fact that it was even there after this letter from 15 and 16 into 17 to say that they were still doing other things and still trying to cheat, but that's water. You're talking about gasoline and oil. The Astros are flammable, where this is just a little bit. Stop it.
They were using this on the road. They were using phones in the bullpen and the dugout to communicate and relay the signs, and you had one dude say, oh, we only did it with a runner at second base. Like, I'm not buying that. And to Austin's point, too, the memo or the letter, the Manfred letter to the Yankees, I forget the exact timeline, but it was pre-2018. I think it was like, I actually think the
letter was 17.
It was 17. I think it was like, it was around the time that he sent the memo out to everybody.
And it was referring to instances from 15, 16, 17.
15 and 16.
But they said they started it in 17 and then stopped with the letter.
Right. So, like, are we buying that because one person said it? No. I think it is all a cover-up. I think it's Robert Manfred trying to alleviate and to lessen the sign-stealing scandal. Because, look, even in this letter, like at the bottom of this letter, this is something that, like, also is being swept away because Martino had his spin on it and Passan calling it a nothing burger. And all of these other, top baseball talking heads are saying, oh, there's not a whole lot to see here. I wonder why they're saying that. It says that this was going on all throughout Major League Baseball. If you investigated every single team, 1 through 30, every single team in Major League Baseball from the sign-stealing era, if we want to call it that, like there was a steroid era, let's just say 2015 to 2019, whatever the case may be. If you did the investigation that you did for the Houston Astros, I believe with total conviction that you would find almost every single team doing it the same way that the Houston Astros did. Because the Houston Astros learned this from who? They learned it from Carlos Beltran. Where was Carlos Beltran playing in 2015 and 2016? He was playing for the New York Yankees.